Hey, welcome to the June edition of Ask a Career Coach. I am Dr. Christy Taylor, your favorite career coach and owner of Work Solutions LLC. And each month we run the 21-day career pivot, and then we go live and answer your questions. And so I have something that I wanted to share with you. We have shifted to 21-day career pivot, and we used to, when we started this, we would have you to register, and you would register by the first of the month, and then we would run it to the 21st of each month. But now we actually have that in a drip campaign. And what does that mean for you as someone who's participating in the 21-day career pivot? It means that you can sign up at any point during the month. It does not matter. I'm still going to pop on live and answer your questions live on the 21st of each month to the best of my ability. And then but throughout the month, it doesn't matter when you start, we are always here to support you. So I'm encouraging you to join the live stream, to jump on and be a part of this transformative process. So remember that as part of the 21-day career pivot each month, we align. This is absolutely free. We encourage you to buy our 21-day career pivot guide. We now have a digital version of that 21 career day pivot guide that you can get for a bit cheaper on directly from our website, but it guides you through the process. We have lectures in there, short mini lectures, and then it provides you also with access to our Pivot Like a Pro course. So we encourage you to jump in, engage, and be a part of that process. So again, I'm here to answer your questions in the live, but we'd like you to submit those questions. So we have, again, 5 top questions that were submitted this month. And so I want to go ahead and kick us off. We'll be on for about 30 minutes. I'm monitoring the chat to see if any of you have questions that I can answer also during this live. And in this case, we're going to be using, I do have some names, but I've also promised some clients that I would use just their initials. So hi, Dr. Taylor. My name is RM, the initials RM. I'm currently struggling with getting back into employment. I've been feeling stuck in kind of a paralysis. So I haven't been applying as consistently as I should. And even though I do apply, even when I do apply, I'm not getting any interview interest. So I always say just right there, people think that the resume gets them a job. But if you are applying for jobs, you're not getting any interviews. One, let's look at the type of jobs you're applying for. And two, we need to look at and readjust your resume. If you haven't already scheduled a free 15-minute appointment with me, I'm going to ask you to please reach out and do that, and then we can take care of you. What RM is asking for guidance on 2 things: how to improve the resume so it stands out and reflects his values clearly, and how to know if applying for the right roles that's actually that he's applying for the right role, actually allowing his passions and purpose. So that's, without even reading the rest of your question, I knew right away what the 2 challenges that you were having. So one, we use AI now. And so what I'm going to encourage you to do is, if you are looking to improve your resume, do a quick scan of, use AI like ChatGPT, do a scan of the job description and make sure that inside of your resume that you have the necessarily keywords to make sure that your resume stand out. But it's not just about keywords, RM. It's also about making sure that whatever it is that you are showing is that you are showing that employer or potential employer that you have achieved a certain level, right? And so I always use this acronym: action, impact, results. And so you want to make sure that, one, your resume is aligned with what they're asking for. You're going to do that through the use of keywords and then showing an action, impact, result. So not everything in your resume needs to be in a descriptive format. You need to actually have numbers, things that you've done, and being able to quantify and speak to the results that you get, because employers want to see results, and then they also want to know how you're going to fit into their organization and get similar results for them. And the second thing is that you're asking me how to know if applying for the right roles that align, that you're applying for the right roles that align with your passion and purpose. That is completely up to you. Again, I'm going back to some of the things that we talk about in the 21-day career pivot, including in our guide, right? You have to know what you value. You have to know what's important to you. And so it's really important that you research that company when you're going through that process of the job search. And so, okay, if, again, just a couple things before I move on to the next question. If your resume is not clearly translating your value for the roles you're targeting, you need to make sure that you are adapting You need to make sure that you're using the proper keywords. And it's not about you necessarily applying more. Your first goal really needs to be focused on getting that clarity and structure that you need for that resume. And the second thing I want to tell you is when it comes to that role alignment, that second piece of that question that you pointed out to me, this part is not just about, it's just as important as the resume. But again, you have to go back, reflect on what your values are. You need to actually research the company. Sometimes when we lose our jobs and we don't know what to do next, the first thing we do is we do panic searching, right? And we don't necessarily focus on the strategic aspects of a job search. And so when we apply based on just how we're feeling it in that moment, instead of actually taking time to research that company, then this is what's going to, it's really going to add a little bit more pressure on you for the job search. And this is why you're feeling like you're feeling, because you're not taking time to really reflect on what are my values? What is it that I want to get out of my next role? And researching that company, looking at the feedback that they have on Indeed, or looking at through research on LinkedIn or other websites where people are leaving comments, but just look at the history of that company, and then that'll tell you. Then also, if you do get an interview, because sometimes we don't know really, we can do all of this research and we don't necessarily know right away if that company is the right fit for us. Well, you going into that interview process, you be prepared to ask them questions. And one of the things I want you to consider as you go about this and you try to do a job search more strategically is consider things like, what type of work actually energizes me, even if I've done it in a small way before. What patterns show up in roles I'm drawn to? What do you value? And are you actually applying for roles that match the strengths or just what you think you qualify for? So again, take some time, take a step back. And then one of the things I just want to point out to you before I move on to the next question is I want to address the paralysis piece that you're feeling. Okay. This could come from a lack of a structured job search, because again, if you're just applying and you're not getting any interviews and you haven't taken those steps I mentioned earlier, it's going to lead to fatigue, and it's going to lead to frustration and burnout, simply because you feel the pressure of, I need to get a job, but you're also experiencing rejection. So pick 1 to 2 target roles that you really want to focus on. Update your resume specifically for those types of roles, and then apply in small, consistent blocks instead of just trying to apply for everything. It always is interesting to me as a coach to see people say, I've applied for 700 jobs and I've had not one interview. Then it's a resume problem. My final thought is that you're not behind. You're just in transition, and you need to give yourself a chance to really understand what it is that you're looking for and what is it that you want to get out of your next experience. Okay. So I'm only on for about 30 minutes today. If you guys have any questions, just feel free to drop in. I'll answer those in the live for you. All right. So here's another question. This was sent to me by Debbie. I work as a claims processor, and I'm currently struggling to get hired. I've been applying for jobs, but I'm not getting any responses, and I'm starting to worry that my age may be working against me. Okay, this question pops up all the time about the age factor. I'm trying to find a decent role that fits my experience, but I'm not sure where to look. Okay, so I'm going to break this down, because this is a common question that I get. The problem is not that you are too old. The problem is usually either positioning, targeting, or it's your application strategy, Debbie. Okay, so I want to challenge something that you said, because the first thing I always deal with day 1 of this manual is mindset, right? And I know that sometimes when coaches talk about mindset, they're not always talking about reality. And I'm talking about you dealing with reality, but also positioning your mindset so that sometimes what happens in reality doesn't affect you, your mind, and how you choose to proceed. Okay. So yes, there are some people who can be difficult when it comes to age, but that's a discriminatory practice, and that's a whole nother HR discussion. And so when you're dealing with those nuances, you don't want to add additional pressure to yourself already. So sometimes it's just about how you are positioning yourself. Okay. The no responses issue is usually not age. I'm just going back to resume. Okay. Employees are not necessarily filtering out resumes based on age. Now there has been some stuff when it comes to AI and what's happening. And this is why we always say when you write your resume, eliminate some dates where you can, right? Really focus on the last 15 years of what you've done, 10 to 15 years, and then go from there. And so there are some nuances with AI. I don't want to be, I don't want to be overly, again, just make this sound so smooth, but some of this stuff we can work past, because again, if you're not getting any interviews, it's another resume issue. The real question becomes how you're positioning yourself. When they look at your resume, can they immediately see what roles you have qualified for, what roles you are qualified for, things that you've done in the past, what systems or environments that you worked in, and what value that you bring beyond task completion. And a big win is task completion, right? Somebody who has been in the workforce for 20, 30 years, and you have had a progressive career, what type of words are you using in that resume to really describe your experience? So if your resume reads like a claims processing duties, it blends in. So if it reads like claims accuracy, resolution, compliance, customer issues, a progressive career, there's a small shift in difference. So some of that is about how you may be positioning yourself. And so I want you to I want you to look at how you might, the verbiage on your resume, pull some sample resumes, some sample job descriptions, and look at how you might be positioning yourself. And then just kind of narrow your focus down. Maybe look at insurance claim roles like analysts, specialists, adjuster support, healthcare admin roles, if applicable, customer operations, case management, things that show a little bit more like you're moving a little bit more in terms of a progressive career. And just remember that your experience is going to be more valuable when you're presenting it in a way that really gets their attention. All right. Pay attention, because claims processing builds very transferable skills. You have things like attention to detail, policy interpretation, data accuracy and documentation, customer communication, problem solving under guidelines. These are things that you might not always be considering in that process of when you're doing your resume. So take a look at your resume and just make sure that it reflects those things. Those are not entry level skills. They are operational skills. And so at this point in your career, that's what you need to be kind of moving towards. Again, you might not want to be in a management position, but you definitely want a resume that reflects the experience so that you can get paid your worth. So here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to give you 4 quick steps and then tell you my final thoughts, and we're going to move to the next question. Okay. 1, I want you to update your resume to focus on outcomes. Actually, I'm going to give you 5 steps, because 1, I want you to make sure that you better position your mindset to deal with some of the stuff that you may come across. Okay. Then 2, I want you to update that resume. I want you to focus on outcomes and not just duties. And this is the mistake a lot of people make. You just, if I as an employer am advertising for a job, and then you apply for said job, and it only shows a reflection of the very description I provided, that's not necessarily a qualification. Okay. You got to actually show me what you did. All right. So keywords are important, but actual results are important too when you are talking about getting that interview. Track where you are getting 0 responses from versus any response. That tell you what's working and what's not. And then adjust your keywords accordingly in that resume. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just your mindset, and then the other tips really focus on adjusting that resume. If you're still not getting interviews at all, the resume needs that refinement first before increasing applications, because you are not behind and you are not too late. Age is only, it's one of many things, because I could have the same argument for someone who's just graduating college and entering the job market. And here you are with a lot more experience and expertise to fall back on. And so it's all about how you are choosing to position yourself. And once your resume and targeting align with that employers are actually searching for, you should see a better response. This was sent in by LL. So we have now, you've probably seen us advertise more on Facebook. And so if you responded to us via one of our Facebook advertisements, one of the things we ask you is, what questions do you have? And so this person submitted via Facebook. she just really wants to know, where can I find work from home job that earns real income? And this is a great question, and it's so simple in terms of what I get, but it's complicated in terms of what's happening. You have to research companies, because I want to just give you a practical place to start. So first, there are legitimate work from home jobs that pay real income, and the key is going to be knowing where to look and avoiding the noise, because when you are trying to figure out what to do next, it could be, again, you're dealing with emotions, you're dealing with uh, just a sense of direction, just a sense of maybe just a lack of direction, right? There are some trusted places that you can go search, and I'm going to tell you some of these major job boards. LinkedIn Jobs, use the remote filter option. Indeed Jobs has I love Indeed. I love LinkedIn and Indeed. Indeed Jobs has a remote, and you can actually get verified employers. You can set alerts for both LinkedIn and Indeed. Others are Glassdoor. They're good for checking for company legitimacy and reviews. So Glassdoor comes with reviews, and Indeed has started incorporating some of that. You can also use sites like ZipRecruiter. And then for remote focused platforms, you have websites like FlexJobs, WeWorkRemotely.com, Remote.co, Remote OK, and Working Nomads. I love a company, LiveOps is really great if you like independent contractor work. And then something that people often miss is just going to these different company web pages to see, especially if that company has a history of work from home jobs. And you can look on companies like especially if it's a call center job, or just depending on where you're at in your career, right? There are a lot of different remote roles that are directly on the company web pages that they don't always advertise openly, like insurance companies, healthcare systems, university education providers, government contractors, customer service based jobs. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples of those companies. United Health Group advertises online, CVS Health, Humana, Concentrix, and Kelly Services. And Kelly is a temp company, and they even still will advertise virtual and remote jobs. And then if the job, so one of the things that people always ask me was, well, how do you know if it's legit? It's because if they're asking you to pay money up front, if they're asking you to pay for training kits before hiring, if they promise you a high income, then those usually are some type of pyramid scheme, right? And so legit companies, like I mentioned to you, United Health, CVS, Humana, LiveOps, Kelly Services. LiveOps is going to be a little bit different, simply because LiveOps is more of an independent contractor. So you expect to kind of, you need to be running your own business with that. But those just give you NextRep or another example. So take this kind of as a starting point. And then there are some subscription services that you can subscribe to that will help you to identify the best options in terms of what you're looking for, where you want to go, and you can kind of take it from there. All right, so that's kind of my answer for that. That was pretty succinct in terms of getting you the information that you need. So there are companies that still are hiring. You just have to kind of go and make sure you're using the right filters, and you have to research before you apply. Okay. All right, this one came in. We are 2 more questions to go. Again, if you're following along, throw it in the chat. If you're listening to this afterwards, you can post a comment on our YouTube or LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer that for you in the next go round. Or you can schedule a free 15-minute appointment with me. Here is Lamar Smith. She is starting another career after 25 years on the job. She wants to know, what steps should she take to successfully transition into a new career? Okay. Going back to the 21-day pivot. So Lamar, my first thing would be to say, sign up for the 21-day career pivot, because it is free. And that takes you through everything. It's a big transition. You've been in this career for 25 years and you're not starting over. And so this goes back to the question like we had earlier about somebody who's asked about age, but you're just strictly really asking about career transition. And the thing about it is, don't overlook the experience that you already have. You need to reframe your experience before you do anything else. After 25 years of working somewhere, you most likely, whether it's formal or informal, you have that leadership experience, that problem solving under pressure experience, deep industry knowledge And these are not old skills, because everybody's worried about what's going to happen with AI. Well, there are some things that AI cannot replace. It's not going to replace that human factor, your leadership, problem solving, that industry experience. So they are highly transferable skills that are going to help you, that employers are still looking for. They're still looking for that human advantage. And again, AI is a new thing, right? It's a new thing. And so with anything that's new, you're going to have it kind of coming in. It's going to seem like it's taking over for a while, and then boom, it'll level out. All right. So you need to so once you do that, once you really understand how to reframe your experience, then the next thing you want to do is you want to get clear direction. Because if you've been somewhere for 25 years, it's not just about you transitioning to a new job. This is a big challenge, and career transitions at this stage don't apply too broadly, right? You should be able to narrow it down. Consider things like the type of work you want to do, the kind of environment you want to be in, and the skills you want to use most often. Now, you hear me saying this. This is no different than I would tell anybody who I compel you to always conduct a strategic job search. If you're in a position to, Dr. Taylor, really in this job market, I acknowledge that you may have to take a job, and I've had to do it. You might have to take a job to just simply get you from point A to B, but that doesn't mean that in between time you stop doing that strategic job search. Expect a positioning shift, not a complete restart. Because again, even if you're going to a different industry, you're still coming in with these skills. You may not enter with the exact same title or structure that you had before, but that does not mean that you're going to start at the bottom. Okay. So in many cases, people who are transitioning in their career, you've done things like, or you might decide to do consulting or advisory roles, focus on project coordination. You might enter roles that are focused on training and mentorship, and then industry adjacent positions, which I'm talking about, where, listen, these transferable skills that you had got you into a new role, and it might be a totally different industry. All right. And so my point here is that you need to really embrace the experience that you have, because you embracing it is going to help you to expect more, expect more from the next role that you go into. And so you can position yourself accordingly. And so again, you're going to update that resume. You're going to make sure that you're showing the action, impact, result, the patterns of leadership and responsibility, and the clear skills transfer. But how you talk about yourself in the interviews and the networking conversations are going to be just as important. I say this every video. You guys are in the business of you. If I'm in the business of me, then my brain is going to translate clearly. Everything's going to be succinct across, right? When you looked at my LinkedIn, my resume, my cover letter, and how I come into that interview to tell my story, to make sure that you as an employer know that I'm here to help you win. I'm going to do well in this role. Everything should tell a succinct story. So you need to make sure that you have a clear brand. And then you're going to take a gradual approach to this leap. You have 25 years of experience. You want to make sure you get a job or a position that really speaks to, and again, I'm talking about strategic job searches, that experience, right? So take time to research and explore. Have those networking conversations. Do skills refresher training as needed. And then, talk to people who are in different roles, especially if you're switching over. That's completely okay. A 25-year career is not something that you just walked away from. And in some instances, if you worked in the federal space, some people's roles were terminated, right? You are at an advantage right now because of the actual, some people may argue different, but if you are focused on leveraging leadership and expertise, that's an advantage. Okay. And so you can leverage that to move yourself in a position that is equal to or at a higher level than what you were. It's all about how you strategically position yourself. But again, if you have to get a job in that transition, that's okay. We all have to pay bills. All right. I want to just do one final question here, and thank you guys for who showed up. And I see people popping in and out, but again, I am available if you have any questions. If you are joining us from the Career Resiliency Network, we'll make sure that we do a replay. And again, feel free, just ping us. We're happy to answer your questions online. Okay. Last question is from Jessica. She has been working in marketing for several years, but she is thinking about pivoting away from it. And what steps should she take? All right. All right. So when we talk about pivot, you know how I feel about the career pivot. Jessica, sign up for that free challenge. Now, marketing roles can be difficult. It's not difficult to pivot, but it's difficult to get into. And I've seen a lot of people experience that. But I want to talk about you having a successful pivot out of marketing, right? And so marketing is pretty fast paced. It can be repetitive, and sometimes people can be misaligned. And the good news is that a pivoting away from marketing does not mean that you have to start at zero. All right. So I want you to start by identifying what actually are you leaving behind. Okay. It's so broad, you need to get specific about what's not working for you. Why do you want to leave in the first place? I mean, maybe you decided to go to school for this, or you just kind of burnt out, right? What areas are you specializing in when it comes to marketing where you are now transitioning? Because this is also going to point out the skills that you're going to take with you, but also if you need to refocus in a different area and rebrand yourself in a different area of marketing or a different organization, especially if you have administrative experience, this is going to help. So the areas that you specialize in, was it content creation? Was it were you just not excited about the pressure to perform, to track performance metrics? Was it the constant campaign cycles? Was it a lack of creative control? What is it that's pulling you away from something that you went into? Because clarity on what you want to step away from helps you avoid repeating the same frustration in a new role. I want you to recognize what in marketing actually transfer to other places. I see advertisements a lot for communications specialists. And when it comes to communication and messaging, that is right on par with marketing, data interpretation, project coordination, helping the audience to understand and research, strategic thinking and execution, especially when it comes to the level that you have managed these campaigns. These are not marketing only skills. So again, if you think about going into business administration or some other field, this is kind of give you a landing point. And you can look at bridge roles again, those communication, brand and strategy, client branding and strategy, project or operations coordination, training, onboarding, business development. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with that. You just have to decide the direction that you want to go and position yourself accordingly. And when you reposition your resume, here's what I want for you. Don't restart it. Okay. Focus on, again, those outcomes, not just a marketing task, but if you know, like, I'm moving into a communications role or I'm moving into a training onboarding type of role, right? Think about what marketing does, even from an HR perspective. As someone who's done onboarding, recruiting, that's marketing, right? But translate marketing language into business language. And then I want you to test your next direction before you fully commit. Talk to people in the roles that you're interested in, take a short course, take a certification, do small projects or freelance work, but give yourself some time. Make sure that you're not just pulling out of this because of burnout, right? That you're actually doing this because you're ready to make that transition. You don't need to abandon everything that you have built in marketing. You need to just reposition it so it supports where you want to go and what you want to do next, because a strong pivot is less about leaving your career behind and more about redirecting your skills into a space that fits where you are now. All right, everybody. We are right at the 30-minute mark. We had 5 great questions. Again, I'm going to say you can join the 21-day career pivot at any time. We run it throughout the month, and get yourself a copy of this pivot book. We give you exercises. We give you the first day free of charge, but throughout the month, even if you don't get the book, we encourage you to. But again, everybody's in a different place and space, and we want to be able to support you wherever you are. So whether it is you participating and grabbing the book, you participating in the free experiences, just submitting questions, we want to support you at wherever you are. I encourage you to schedule a free 15-minute consultation with me, and we look forward to continuing to serve you. I will see you again next month on the 21st of July, same time, same place. So submit your questions, and we look forward to supporting you with your career goals. Have a great night.